Hello Walker County, thank you for joining us for this segment of Smart Growth Walker County. Today I'm joined by David Ashburn, who is going to be talking to us about some of the changes in county ordinances. Very, very great discussion, so stay tuned. You're going to enjoy this conversation. And again, Walker County, thank you so much for joining us. Hello, welcome to this edition of Smart Growth Walker County. It's our pleasure to have David Ashburn with us again on this edition. We are excited to talk a little bit about county ordinances. We've had some things that have changed, and so we're excited about that. So David, thank you so much for coming back and agreeing to be with us again.
Sure.
Most people are probably a little confused with the county police. And I know that the county police has a lot to do with enforcing the ordinances and I guess codes and such that we have, or just the ordinances?
Sure. Well, the Walker County Police Department is a fully licensed police department that carries the same authority as any police department, only it's a county police department. But its primary responsibility is not your general law enforcement as far as speeding, murders, fights, domestics, that type of thing. That's primarily under the sheriff's department, but is dealing with the county ordinances, everything from trash, bad buildings, junk cars, to animal control.
Oh, okay.
The animal control officers are under Walker County Police.
Okay.
And within the county you have, there's codes and ordinances. Codes deal with mainly building. There is the international building codes that we enforce as part of the building of any type structure in Walker County. And so we have building inspectors that go out and inspect and do that. And they work under the auspice of the overall world of county police, because they can write citations and do stop work notices and things like that.
How big of a department is that? I mean, how many employees do you have?
There are 3 animal control officers. There is, I serve as the chief. There is a primary ordinance for the junk cars and that type thing, the nuisance ordinance it's called. And then there's 2 building inspectors, but also the fire marshal is, Wayman Westbrook is a certified police officer, and he operates under the county police department too.
Oh, okay, all right.
So the certified officers can arrest and do anything. We have some that are civilian officers that can write citations, but they don't have arrest powers.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the, I guess, the enforcement of ordinances. I know that there has been some conversations in the past, people sort of upset about, I guess, people not being held accountable for certain things that they felt like were
so much
to be
of
addressed.
It, when the county ordinances started out, they were enforced in magistrate court. And then we moved them to state court. In magistrate court, at that time, the judge that was there then actually said that he felt that they were not legal ordinances because they were not judgeable.
Oh, I see.
So they had to go back, and even though the state attorneys general had approved them, they had to go back and make changes. And for instance of that is grass. What constitutes high grass? Well, now the ordinance says if the grass is 12 inches high.
Oh, okay.
So if you go out with a ruler and measure and part of the grass is 12 inches high, then that is constitutionally, by the ordinance, high grass. And so the enforcement officer can then tell the people, you've got 15 days to get your yard cut, or under a warning citation, and if they come back in 15 days and it's not cut, then they cite them to court. Now the problem that we ran into in the past was the judicial timeline. For instance, if somebody called and reported high grass first week of June, Well, we go out and meet with them, give them a warning citation. You got 15 days to cut it. Well, if it wasn't cut, then you had to write them a citation to court. Well, that court citation would be past the cutoff date for the July state court agenda, so they would have to schedule it for August. So they show up that first weekend in August and they go up and say, well, I want a trial by jury. Then they have to put it off for another 1 to 2 months to schedule that type thing, or a bench trial would be put back. So somebody making a complaint in June, the first week of June, basically could go into September or October when grass season is basically over before the yard would ever be cut.
Sure.
And they're upset because of rats and snakes and things like that in the high grass.
Well, I can sympathize with that. That's always
a prime example is we have the pallet shop on Wallaceville Road. I mean, 341 there in Wallaceville. It's been in court now for 3 years and has not gotten a final judgment tied to it. You've heard a lot about the horses down at Mountain Cove Farms that the commissioner owns or this or that.
Well, wait a minute. We better let's be clear. She doesn't own them. They'll misconstrue that.
No, that is horses that are under the guardianship of the animal shelter.
Yes.
They were removed from the location that they were at in the county because of neglect. And veterinarian and the Department of Agriculture all agreed, and our officers, that it was. So we had to take them in. We didn't have the room at the animal shelter to store those horses. So they moved to Mountain Cove. The field pasture was already fenced in. They eat grass. And, you know, we have a guy that cuts the hay down there, and for us letting him cut the hay and take half of it, he gives us half. So the hay doesn't cost anything, and it's cut at no expense to the county because that way it keeps the farm looking nicer and under control. So they don't cost anything, but we have to house them, and they've been in court for 2.5 years waiting for the court to finalize a decision on what to do with them. And until that time, we legally can't do something.
So we moved from magistrate to state court, and so now I know or understand that the ordinance has changed somewhat.
Right.
That we have
The commissioner moved forward. We brought it to her because you see this in Chattanooga and a lot of other places. She adopted the code official ordinance. And a code official is somebody that she just appoints. It's not a judge or anything else. They are a person that looks at the evidence out there. It states that, you know, you have to go in and do a warning. And part of the problem we have is you have people that have a house burn and pack up and move to California. And how do you get a hold of them? How do you know where they are? You send a letter to the last place that the property taxes went to, but that doesn't mean they'll respond or act to you or anything else. And when it was in court, they wanted us to write a citation that person signed. So it just lived out there in Neverland. You had the foreclosed houses. They belong to companies that are all over the country who could care less. And they just tell you what to do with your time and go on about their business. So now with the code official, we have guidelines. If we can't get a hold of somebody, we send a letter to the last place that their taxes was sent to. If they don't respond within the 15 days, then we post it for another 5 days, and then it's turned over to the code official, and the code official can say, okay, I'm gonna write this for the road department to go out and cut the grass. And the road department sends somebody out there and cuts the grass. They keep up with the time, they keep up with the equipment used and all that, and then that is charged to them, and the ordinance allows it to be charged to their property tax.
So
and
when they
then
receive a bill
for the property tax, it'll have that on there. And it's not a lien, it's a fee fine, so they have to pay it when the property tax is due. If not, then they're subject to have it sold. Same thing with tearing down a house. We'll try to get a hold of them, do everything else, and then if they're not going to do it, then he can rule for a contractor or the road department or whoever to tear that house down.
Now, the change in this ordinance, this hasn't been changed all that long, right?
It started after the first of the year, but it really couldn't take effect for a couple of months later because the commissioner had to appoint an appeals board. After the code official makes his decision and turns that in, there's 5 days that a person can appeal that decision
to the appeals
to the appeals board, and we would set the time up. They would hear it and agree to go along with that or uphold the code official, and the code official would go represent why he took the action they did. So the enforcement officer has to document every contact or attempt to contact, the steps, the days, and all that. Take pictures and everything else, and all that's done and given to the code official. Now, when it comes to tearing down a house, the chief building inspector goes out and determines whether the house is salvageable or not. And based on their knowledge of building buildings, it's kind of like totaling a car when you wreck. If it can't be rebuilt at a reasonable cost, then they say it should be tore down.
Let me ask this: when you're talking about tearing down the house, I know that a lot of people, have stated aggravation because something has burned and it's just been left maybe within some of the cities. But when this is torn down, I'm assuming that what happens is that the debris that's left would be carried into the C&D landfill.
That is correct.
Right? So
all of those charges go back against the tax. And the code official can also say, I'm going to give them a fine up to $1,000. And the enforcement officer writes that ticket for the $1,000 or $100 or whatever fine associated with it.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it is a problem that it seems like that there's more of it than not.
Yeah, well,
the
big thing people need to understand is we cannot do selective enforcement. If you look at the sheriff's department and they run a roadblock, they can't say, oh gee, white person go, white person go, white person go, black person stop. That is illegal. And we're the same way. We can't drive down the road and say, gee, they're out of compliance, so I'll do a citation to them. We have to have somebody call in to file a complaint, and then we go investigate the complaint and try to get it taken care of. That way it's not cannot be argued as selective enforcement.
So you guys work off of complaints?
Strictly. Animal control is exactly the same way too. And so you complain, then they'll go out and see if they're outside. And in different ordinances, things like junk cars. You can have 2 cars on your property that are not licensed, no insurance, and don't run. And that's for people that buy, antique cars and want to fix them up or whatever. Anything beyond those 2 have to have a current license, have to have current insurance, and they should be able to start it, put it in gear, pull it forward a little bit, and back it up to show that it works.
Sure.
And if they got 10 of them, it's okay.
Yeah.
But 2 is all they can have that doesn't fall in that category.
I know there's a lot of people who are breathing a sigh of relief right now. Sure. Because I know lots of folks that
have several cars. Sure.
That's right.
Well, if you got 4 kids and they all got a car, and you and your wife, that could be 6 cars.
I know at my house with my 2 kids driving now, it looks like a used car lot there. But anyway.
Trash. Yeah. We allow somebody to have 6 30-gallon bags of trash on their property. And you say, well, 6 bags, why? Because the landfill allows you to pay a one-time fee when you come in to handle all 6 bags without being weighed and stuff. So we allow people to build those up to the point that it should be bagged, not just all over the yard until that happens. Yeah. Please understand, we cannot regulate good taste. If somebody wants to paint their house pink and hang gourds all the way across the front porch and put a washer and dryer out there, it's not illegal. Yeah. If they got junk appliances in the yard that are just sitting there that don't work, that is. And so we can work to get that cleaned up. So again, but you've got to understand contacting the people and all that. And with the commissioner putting the code's official ordinance in, it has streamlined things dramatically and moved things along much better.
But as you said, it does take some time.
Still takes time.
Yeah, it's
you
not
know,
like
on the
that it can
house
happen.
of somebody that's not there, and you have to send letters and wait and post and wait and all that. You can still take 45 days to a month by the time you can act, or 45 days to 2 months before you can actually start action on it.
I see. Well, let me go ahead and ask you, because I know that we don't have a lot of time, but if someone has a complaint that they want to file, who is it that they call?
They would call the Codes and Enforcement Office at the 375-5622.
Okay.
If it's animal control, you call the 375-2100. And please understand, in Walker County, the leash law, when I say that, you think of hooking a dog to a leash and walking it down the road. The leash law in Walker County states that you must have your dog, and that's all it applies to, on your property. Doesn't have to be tied up, doesn't have to be on a leash or in a fence. If it's in your yard, it's in regulation.
Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. Wonderful information that David has provided for us again. Know that there's a lot of questions about ordinances and really the enforcement of them. So if you have further questions, David can make himself available. I'm sure at least some of the staff that you have can answer questions as well.
One thing that people want to do, I want to call this in anonymously. And legally, we have to, if it goes to court somewhere, have to be able to bring the person that made the complaint in as a witness to prove that they did file the complaint, that we just didn't arbitrarily go do it.
I see. All right, well, if you have further questions, you can contact David on the number that is being shown on the screen. And so again, we appreciate you coming in and talking with us. And until next time, Walker County, thank you so much for tuning in. Well, there you have it. We appreciate you so much for tuning in. I hope that there was valuable information that you could take away with this conversation with David. Remember, the contact number is on the screen for any type of question, or maybe you've got a concern that you want to file. So just give our Codes Enforcement Office a call, and they'll be glad to take care of any problem that you may have. And again, Walker County, thank you so much for joining us.